What's up, everybody? It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and on this channel, we break down the trials and cases you care most about so you can understand how the American civil and criminal justice system works. And we try to make sure you understand what your rights are in every situation, which is why we try to walk you through the entire legal process while also answering your insightful questions along the way. And while it's not legal advice, it's always exciting. So buckle up for another episode of The Lawyer You Know. What's up, everybody, and Happy New Year, the first day of 2023. And of course, we had to come with a little video. Drove home from North Carolina today, so we're back in the 80-degree heat of Florida. We left in the 30s. It was literally in the 30s in North Carolina when we left, and when we got here, it was in the 80s. So we're here enjoying it, taking it all in. My wife has taken down the Christmas decorations. We're unpacking, getting ready for the week to start. Hopefully everyone had a happy, fun, and safe New Year. But as I was driving home, I was listening to some reports. I was getting some stuff on Instagram about what's going on in this case and hearing some reports that are legitimate and some reports that are less than legitimate, and then some that we just don't know that answer yet. So we're going to get into all that and more, talking about the Idaho murders and the suspect that's been arrested, awaits extradition to Idaho. We have heard some evidence, or I should say some reports that I think give us a pretty good indication as to what he's going to plead, whether or not he's going to fight extradition, why he would fight it, how it works that the public defender in Pennsylvania is representing him right now. Are they going to keep representing him? We're going to go through all of those kind of details, of course, as always on this channel, breaking down the legal angles of it, how the legalities are going to work. And I do want to talk about some of the rumors and discuss how, regardless as to whether or not some of these rumors are true, do they have any chance at all of coming into evidence? There are people reading them and talking about them in mainstream media, on TikTok, on social media platforms, as if it's confirming that he is in fact guilty, when in fact most of it would never see a courtroom and will never come into play as to whether or not a jury decides his guilt or innocence in this case. So if you're here for this case and you just started subscribing to our channel, which a lot of you have from this Idaho case, let me know by putting the Idaho 4 hashtag in the comments section or the live chat, because that's always fun. I'm going to go through some comments, and of course, at the end, we will talk through your questions, answer your questions. J. Michael Gray, Happy New Year to you too, and to the entire gang here in the chat. Marty Ferguson's here. What's up? Marty and John is here, dude and dudettes. Thanks, Peter, our guy, for always keeping us informed. Yes, we're going to talk through this because a lot of you are sending me stuff saying, I don't know if it's true. Does this make a difference? Does this prove that he did it? Does this prove that he didn't do it? Things like that. So we're going to go through all that and more today in this video. Law enforcement asked for tips. We watched the press conference together, and they wanted tips about him personally. They're trying to find the murder weapon and connections to the victims. And when we talk about asking for tips like that, and that it shows that they don't have everything yet and they're trying to gain information, well, you're going to get a lot of information. Whether or not it's the information you want, whether or not it's information that you can use, that is to be determined. But some of the information that's come out are statements from his aunts, as some people say, about how he was a very serious vegan, a weird level of OCD with his food and what he could eat and what he couldn't eat. And he was always a strange kid. He was intelligent, but kind of standoffish. Then you have other students, commenting about how he's weird or creepy or not cool or bullied or made fun of or used to be overweight, which connects to the vegan and the way that he eats. So will the fact that he's a vegan come out at trial? Not unless it has something to do with his connection to the victims, which some people are saying they worked at a vegan restaurant and maybe that's how there was a connection. Sure, that can't come out. But the fact that he was overweight and bullied, probably not going to come out as to whether or not he did this, right? Unless they're trying to use it for motive, or unless he's going to use it during some sort of penalty phase or during sentencing, right? But it doesn't, none of this stuff tends to prove or disprove that he committed these crimes. Okay. And most of you have caught on to that and understand that. Another report came out that law enforcement was following him for days as he drove across country. And when he would go into certain grocery stores, he would wear gloves. And people are surmising that he did not want to get his fingerprints on anything, on any public areas, that then they could take his fingerprints. Well, he did 23andMe or whatever, some website where he gave his DNA, and that's how he ended up getting caught, reportedly. So the fact that he wore gloves in stores, what's that going to show? Does that tend to prove or disprove anything? Is that something that's relevant to the charges at hand, the burglary and the murder charges? To me, I don't think so. Now, one of the interesting things, and this is a big part of the report to me, that when I look at this and I analyze it and trying to see it from every side, and we hear that he did in fact have a white Hyundai Elantra, 2013, the car that was in question that there is a connection to. He drove it across country, and it was at his house. Okay? And I talked about this a little bit with JB. So he didn't, I guess the timing of some of this stuff we still don't know yet. But when we talk about somebody that drives across country when they're a student around Christmas time, there are some reports that his dad drove cross country with him. I wasn't sure if that was now, like right before Christmas, or if it was some other time that they drove cross country together. But he drives cross country. It doesn't seem like he left immediately after these murders. It seems like he may have left a little bit later, which could be on a timeline as thousands, if not millions, of students across the country were driving home. We're driving home for Christmas break. But is that going to be used as consciousness of guilt, as fleeing a murder? We had that type of argument in Theodore Edgecombe's case, where he left and they were able to argue that. We had that type of evidence in Daryl Brooks's case. We saw him on the Ring doorbell cam where he was trying to call for an Uber, tell people to try to get out of there, right? We had that consciousness of guilt. We had that flee. To me, the fact that Kohberger went from where he was attending school to his parents' house, childhood house, whatever you want to call it, the fact that he went there and not somewhere else to hide out, not somewhere else underground, not somewhere to disappear. To me, a defense attorney can use that to show he didn't do it. He was not hiding. He did not flee. He went home. Because the prosecutors are going to have to argue that he ditched or buried or destroyed the murder weapon because they don't have it. But he didn't do that with the Elantra. And he didn't go into hiding. I've also heard some people pontificate that he had a suit on and booties and his hair back because he studied from some of the great serial killer minds in the world. And he studied this criminology PhD that he was studying for would teach him how to do all this stuff. And there are Reddit posts where he was asking people for their experiences when they committed a crime. What was their mindset like? How did they deal with it emotionally? Chow's saying, so he hung around Idaho for a month. I don't know. We don't know that timeline yet. And that's something I'm interested in. Did they have surveillance on him leaving the night that the murders occurred? Or was it a month later when everybody else was leaving for Christmas break from Washington State where he went to school? So just because you hear, and the reason for us discussing this is just because you hear he drove home or he fled or left, is that the only explanation? Let's not just listen to one explanation and take that as what happened. Weird Debbie M is right. There are way too many rumors going around. We have to see what actually is going to be reliable enough and admissible enough as evidence, relevant evidence to prove the crime. not to prove somebody didn't like him, as he was the black sheep of the family, or his aunt didn't like him, or his dad didn't like him, or his classmate didn't like him, or he wasn't good with girls, or whatever it may be. That type of stuff usually is not going to come in the guilt phase of a trial. And I see Jill said his dad drove him back from the scene. I know his dad drove back with him at some point. Again, we're not clear whether or not it was the scene, but something that's been confirmed is that law enforcement believes he acted alone. There was an individual suspect. They are not looking for anybody else, which is interesting when you connect that to the fact that it's been confirmed reportedly that he did ask, has anybody else been arrested? Why did he ask that? There are again, multiple explanations for this potentially. Is he toying with them? Is he playing games? Or does he actually know that somebody else is involved and he wanted to know if anybody else had been arrested? We don't know those answers. So I think anybody that tells you what that means is guessing. And they're not doing anything more than guessing at this point. I don't believe any Reddit posts or TikTok posts or social media posts until they're legally authenticated and the court allows them to be put in front of a jury. At that point, I'll believe that that Reddit post was actually his. And that's not to say that it wasn't. I don't know is the point. So what do we know about his legal representation at this point? And what do we know about the legal proceedings coming in this case? Let's take a look at this together. All right, this is from the Monroe County Public Defender's Office in Pennsylvania. Mr. Brian Koberger has a scheduled extradition hearing for January 3rd, 2023 in Monroe County Court of Common Pleas. The Monroe County Public Defender's Office has assumed representation for the purposes of this hearing, okay? That's where we're going to stop right now. The Monroe County Public Defender's Office has assumed representation for the purposes of this hearing, talking about the extradition hearing, okay? What we call this in the law is a limited appearance. They are not representing him throughout the entirety of this case, which is appropriate. Monroe County residents should not have to pay for his defense, right? It's not that community. It's going to be in Moscow, Idaho. So the public defender's office there will actually represent him in the guilt phase if he or his family does not hire a private defense attorney. But at this point, it seems like his family has not hired a private defense counsel. And this is one of the major differences between public defenders and private counsel. Public defenders don't travel, they say. So this public defender's office has actually come out and said that they haven't really talked to him a lot about the facts. They don't want to get into whether or not he did it. They don't want to get into what his defense is going to be. They don't want to get into all of those facts because they are not going to represent him throughout the trial. So they are focusing on the limited appearance for the extradition hearing. Mr. Koberger intends to waive his extradition hearing to expedite his transport to Idaho. This is something that we guessed would happen if the public defender in Pennsylvania represented him. And the other reason, based on other reports that I've read and heard, is that he is not challenging identity. What does that mean, challenging identity? That means when you fight extradition, they say, somebody says, okay, we're coming to arrest Peter Tragos because we believe he's committed this crime. Now, if I say, I'm not Peter Tragos, my name's not Peter Tragos, I can fight that. And if they find out that I am, in fact, Peter Tragos and the one that they're looking for that went to Florida State law school, then they could say, yep, you are, and we're going to extradite you. Hold on a second. Let me send this text real quick. So if he's not fighting that, then he's not going to fight extradition. Now, sometimes people can have similar names. And if you have similar names and they arrest you and want to extradite you, as opposed to the other person who's the actual Peter Tragos they're looking for, you can fight extradition. You can prove to them that there's another Peter Tragos out there. Yeah, Darrell Brooks, he probably would have fought this, right? So it seems like he's not fighting that and therefore not fighting extradition. And also showing that maybe he's not going to try to make this the most difficult process of all time, which if he was, this would be something that he would fight. All right. Mr. Kohberger has been accused of very serious crimes, but the American justice system cloaks him in a veil of innocence. We've talked about this, the presumption of innocence. He should be presumed innocent until proven otherwise, not tried in the court of public opinion. And this is exactly what I'm trying to say here. When we talk about these facts and these reports and about him personally and his eating habits and, OCD or whatever he was studying, don't take those facts and just try to build the puzzle that he's guilty. Okay, let's not do that. Let's not make these things something that they're not, right? It's different when we talk about cases where you have a video of somebody committing a certain act, or if you have their recordings of them saying something. At this point, we are literally just talking about potentially relevant and potentially authentic circumstantial evidence to try to paint a picture that we've been told by law enforcement that they think this is the guy that did it. So let's just make sure we don't jump the gun on this. One should not pass judgment about the facts of the case unless and until a fair trial in court, at which time all sides may be heard and inferences challenged. Mr. Kohberger is eager to be exonerated of these charges. He's eager to be exonerated. And this is the first piece of evidence that he's saying, I'm waiving extradition to keep this process going because I'm eager to be exonerated of these charges and looks forward to resolving these matters as promptly as possible. And that's his public defender. So there's our answer as to what he's going to plead. He will plead not guilty in this case. That is what he's going to plead. And I would be shocked if it was anything other than that. There have also been reports, and it seems like it's been confirmed, that he was in fact on suicide watch when he was initially arrested. I've heard conflicting reports as to whether or not he's off suicide watch. And I have heard people take that and draw a straight line to say, if he's on suicide watch, he must have done it. Because he knows he's looking at a lifetime in prison. Thank you, Corin. And that could be one explanation. That could absolutely be one explanation, that he's been caught. He thought he was gaming the system. Thank you, Jacqueline. But in fact, I fought the law and the law won. Tom N said they have to have cross DNA and also said they already have 2 lawyers in Idaho. Okay, so maybe he's going to get private counsel, which is interesting that he would get appointed public defenders in Pennsylvania, but that's kind of a different story as to whether or not he's indigent. So it sounds like he's going to have private counsel. I have not read that yet. So another explanation for being on suicide watch may be, holy crap, I've seen how this plays out before. I'm a criminology person. Maybe I'm a true crime fan. Maybe I followed the Gabby Petito story. Maybe I followed the Amber Heard situation where the public crucified Brian Laundrie and Amber Heard, and one of them ended up committing suicide. And he's thinking, everybody is going to see my picture now. Everybody is going to think I did this when I didn't do it. I'm saying maybe that's what he's thinking. That's enough to be on suicide watch, potentially. I heard people talking about arrests go on your record. That's absolutely true. I saw that in the chat, and they go on your record. And in some places, you can get them sealed or expunged, but other times in certain jobs, government jobs, certain teaching jobs, they can still find the fact that you were arrested for 4 charges of first-degree murder and burglary. What do you think somebody's going to think when they read that when you apply for a job? Oh, no. But I was exonerated. We went to trial. I ended up getting a not guilty verdict after 4 years. So yeah, I'm all good. No, it's not usually how it works when something like that goes on your record. So maybe that's why he's freaking out. I don't know, is the point. And I don't think I know the fact that he was on suicide watch is not going to come in at trial. So it's not a fact that's going to prove or disprove this case. So I think that we need to make sure that we're not taking certain things as evidence or proof when we hear them through the media. Melly, welcome to the membership crew. John O'Rourke. So does this play in his favor? If extradited in this case, does the prosecution only have 14 days to provide all facts? It does start certain timelines, but usually they don't file charges like this until they're ready for all that stuff. I mean, it's been 6 weeks since the crimes actually occurred, right? So I don't know what all of the timelines are in Idaho. I haven't looked into any of that, but it would start timelines once he gets there, including timelines on when we get to see things publicly. Holly, can he tell his lawyer that he did it? Yes, he can. And it would still be privileged and confidential. The only thing a lawyer doesn't keep privileged and confidential is if you say, I'm going to go commit a crime, or I need you to help me commit a crime. Then you can break confidentiality. If it's you can't be aiding and abetting a criminal. But if they come in and they tell you, I did commit this crime, you don't go tell people that. And you can still provide them a defense and make sure that the state attorney's office does their job right. Raven Garcia, grounds. Linz, thank you for covering this so well. I feel like I can't get enough information. Yeah, it's information overload at this point, Linz, which is why I just want us to be appropriate and fair and respectful on what we do with the information we get. Gaining information and listening to this stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm doing it too. I'm listening to all this information as well. And it's common steps. And if you haven't watched the Making a Murderer documentary, when you go back and see how the prosecutor and the media convicted Stephen Avery before it ever started, and he may have done it, I don't know. And that's the point. Like, I'm not saying any of these, I'm not saying I know for a fact what anybody does in any of these situations. I wasn't there, right? But it doesn't seem fair when you are throwing things that may be unsubstantiated as Bible fact, and people are going to do terrible things and say terrible things to he and his family because they believe, based on X or Y report, that he must have done it if he's a vegan and they worked at a restaurant that served vegan food. Literally, people are saying that. Tina, so many facts to learn and understand. Patience is a virtue. Appreciate you reviewing all this. Absolutely. We're gonna go through stuff as it comes in. We're gonna go through stuff and say that would be important at trial. This is going to be something he can use as his defense. This is going to be a big piece of evidence for the prosecution. Like we talked about the DNA and the Elantra. Those are big pieces of evidence for the prosecution. The fact that he was only 6 miles away, that he may have been, following them or associated with them on social media. All of those are facts that can absolutely be used. The fact that he used to be overweight, maybe, maybe not. The fact that he may be OCD or that his aunt might not like him, probably not. This is why we keep a lot of propensity evidence out at trial. So when we talk about how certain people can be very difficult and how you can really be scared with how this can affect your family, let's take a look at this statement here, press release from the Koberger family. First and foremost, we care deeply for the 4 families who have lost their precious children. There are no words that can adequately express the sadness we feel, and we pray each day for them. We will continue to let the legal process unfold, and as a family, we will love and support our son and brother. We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions. We respect privacy in this matter, and our family and the family suffering loss can move forward through the legal process. As our family. So this is a difficult time for everybody, right? Including his family, who they definitely don't want to believe that he did this, okay? They definitely don't want to believe that they did this. But at the same time, they're saying we're cooperating. Magical Mary said, Idaho is one of the 4 states that abolished insanity plea. Correct, but you can still have it as part of your defense, which we can talk about in a future video. CC, if they admit to a crime, can they still defend them as if they're innocent? So this is interesting, and this is sometimes a moral dilemma for certain lawyers. So you can't lie. And I personally am not going to ask lying questions or disingenuous questions where I'm not going to make it seem like somebody else did it if my guy admitted to doing it. I may just ask certain questions to law enforcement, see if any of his rights were violated, see if any of the evidence should be thrown out, and make sure that we don't violate anybody's constitutional rights. Usually it would be more of a working out a plea deal sort of thing if somebody admits that they did it. But some defense lawyers, there's nothing against giving alternate suspects, giving alternate evidence that the jury may or may not believe, or alternate explanations, even if your client has admitted something to you. I don't necessarily do that myself, but they can't lie. They can't put their client on the stand and have them lie. So if your client admits that they did it, they can't put them on the stand to then say they didn't do it. That would be committing fraud on the court. And we've gone in depth on that in some other videos, which we can do again here if people want to hear that. AD, can I say I committed the crime, but maybe circumstances mitigate it from a higher charge to a lower charge? Absolutely, AD. And that happens all the time. That's more commonly what happens. Very rarely does somebody come in and say, I did this, but I want to go to trial and say that I didn't do it. More commonly, they say, I did this, please help me. I did not do it. It was an accident, or I got in a fight with the dude and then the girls woke up and then I freaked out, or whatever, there can be other mitigating circumstances where either that you can get convicted of or plea to a lower charge or a lesser sentence, things like that. There are a lot of things that can be done outside of just saying I did it. Tom N, it seems like he is going for a speedy trial to beat further evidence. That would be interesting. And again, that is something that was learned at the press conference, that maybe they don't have everything and are not ready to convict him right now. So that's something that we learned kind of reading between the lines when we listened to that press conference, Tom. And that wouldn't really be a surprise to me if he did do that. Tina Crichton, when he gets to Idaho, what's next? So certain things get unsealed, like the probable cause affidavit. They'll have to arraign him, tell him what he's charged with, give him the evidence against him. And then the timing starts. Discovery. I don't know the state discovery in Idaho specifically. Here in Florida, there could be depositions, documents that are given back and forth, Brady evidence, meaning any evidence that could be exculpatory to him or prove that he's innocent. He gets the police file, he gets the investigation, he gets the witness statements, he gets copies of all of that through most discovery. I mean, there are some states that do limit discovery. And in our federal court here in Florida, discovery is very limited, and we don't get almost anything in federal court. So it depends on what the discovery process is, but that all happens, and then they start getting ready for trial, and he has to waive his right for speedy trial, or he gets a trial within a period of time that's very short. Tori, happy 2023, Laura, fam. I am glad we're going to cover this case so we get to see the facts of the case and get through all of the gossip. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with Grace. Thank you, Tori, as well, for your generosity and your fun in the chat and your just uplifting questions and comments. Speaking of uplifting, thank you, Azam, for the super sticker. Mar H, the membership link is in the video description if you want to join as a member. Sometimes they say you can't do it on the app and you have to actually go to youtube.com and the Lawyer page that way. Judy, wondering how this affects the TikToker. I haven't had a chance to look into anything today. So apparently she's tripling down, saying that this person is another person that the professor was in fact working with, or the professor ordered this person to put a hit out with the other person, and she's still sticking to her story. So my guess is the defamation case is going to continue. We'll see if she changes her tune. I hope she does, if she doesn't actually have real evidence. Ashley Harris, all this speculation drives me bananas. I agree. And I think as long as we know it's just speculation, we can keep moving forward and wait till we hear something concrete. Once we get the probable cause affidavit and they say, we have video surveillance that he came to their restaurant every Monday, boom. Now we actually have evidence of what that connection is, right? So I'm waiting for more stuff like that to come out, because if you listen to the prosecutors and law enforcement in that press conference, that's where they said to get our facts. So that's where we're going to try to get most of the facts that we just believe as something that's going to come into court. Now, whether or not we believe it, we can still take it. We can still scrutinize it. We can still say, is it credible? Is it not credible? But at least it's something that's going to be authentic and admissible in court. Debbie, can he cut a deal if he confesses? That's up to the prosecutor, right? And sometimes the victims' families have a say in it. And we're going to talk about the victims' families here in a second. Jonathan Prezios, thanks for getting on and saying what you're saying. I've been watching YouTubers and basically saying the dumbest conclusions, like if he did drugs and an incel, basically it makes him a killer. Yeah, I mean, when you deal with this, and you actually do deal with this stuff, and you talk to people that have committed crimes, or even people that have been accused of crimes and they didn't do it, you'd be surprised how they are normal, everyday people. I mean, how many people did you know that were overweight in middle school or high school? Tons of people. How many males did you know that were bullied or made fun of by females? Tons. How many people do you know that turned vegan? Tons. None of those are a straight line connection to they're going to murder 4 people and then, flee or try to get away with it. Could it happen? Sure, any of those people. Crime has no race, religion, creed, gender, anything like that. People from all backgrounds commit crimes for all sorts of reasons. By the book. Have you always been this wise, or did it come with maturity, asking for parents everywhere? I'm not that wise. I try to be reasonable, and I try to think of things from both sides. And I like discussion, and I learn a lot from you guys, and I learn a lot from people in my life that I've worked with, that I've worked against, clients that I've had, parties that I've gone against. And I try to take all that, and that's kind of, we talk New Year's resolutions, and I said I don't really have them. But one of the things I try to do is I try to get better every year. I try to grow in wisdom every year, and respect and how I deal with things. And patience is a big one for me. I was much more of a hothead when I was younger, go off, short fuse, temper, majorly argumentative. Try to back a lot of that down unless it's worth it. But that's a good thing to think of kind of going into the new year. Unfailing Cole, thank you. I meant to say this off the top. Any word on Rick Hogue? Hope he's doing better. So there was a positive report from his wife on Twitter. It was kind of vague. She said the doctor said it was better than he expected. So I'm praying that means he's either out of the woods or on the way from being out of the woods. He's got a young family. I guess it was a stroke. I can't tell you how much this hits, man. I don't know him personally. I've never texted with him. I've been on a couple of videos with him, or group, whatever you call these things, collabs. I've done that a couple times with him. That's really my only experience with him at all. Seems like a super nice guy. I feel horrible for he and his family. And literally anybody that's on his channel, or anybody working with him, if there's anything that you see that we can do or that I can do personally, let me know. I would love to. Kathy figured out how to join the membership crew. Cassie, I still wonder if you could possibly done it alone. That's what they're doubling down on at this point. Julie Cantrell Smith, gosh, I wish you were in Texas. I need a good lawyer. Well, if it's a car accident or some kind of injury case, shoot me an email. If I can't handle it, I know a couple good lawyers over there in Texas. Cat Yarb, any update on Hogue? Yeah, that's what I've got so far. We're continuing to pray. I haven't gotten a report like he's out of the woods. Everything is great. Thank you. Allie Foley also joined the members. P-Hop, more questions than answers at this point. And I think that's correct. And when we talked about a lot of the questions that we had after that initial report, and after we got initially what the victim's family said, that they didn't know what the connection was. Well, recently, Gonsalves's father, who's been the one that hired the attorney, the private investigator, that's been kind of front and center Kaylee's dad, said that they're starting to find some connections between the suspect and the victims. And thank you, Dina. And they said, but we're not going to say what those connections are yet. But then I think he said something derogatory about the suspect, which I can totally understand. I'm not going to blame the victim's parent for talking bad about somebody who has been arrested, and there's at least enough evidence for probable cause to arrest him for committing these heinous crimes. So I'm never going to fault him for that. But to me, the statements seemed a little bit different. And this is me reading between the lines here. This is me speculating. But when you heard the victim's family speak initially about how they hope this is the right person, they believe in the presumption of innocence, they don't know what the connections are, but they hope they got the guy and we get some justice. To now, it seems like they feel like they've got the right guy. So I'm interested in hearing, and I could be reading into that, but I'm interested in hearing what these connections are. Thank you, Velda. From the victim's family's perspective, and if we hear from the victim's lawyer again. Peggy Wolf, I made a live. Happy New Year. Yeah, starting the new year off right with a live, and everybody getting in the live chat here. That's awesome. Golden Girl and Denise Lang, 2 new members here. And I've actually come up with the idea for our next members only chat. We'll post it on the members only community page, and Miss Aqua is going to be there as well. We post a lot on the community page on YouTube. If you haven't gone there yet, you got to subscribe to our channel in order to get over there. And then there's a members only one as well. Also, Instagram and Twitter at Tragos Law. If you guys are on those platforms, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. A lot of interaction happens in the messages and on our posts there. And if you want to know a little bit more personally about the firm, my family, things that we're doing, that's a great place to do it as well. And some great interaction on there. So make sure that You're following us there as well. Tom N. How soon will a PCA come? How soon can lawyers pull the discovery? I don't know. I honestly don't know. They said that as soon as he is there and arraigned, it becomes public and they're going to unseal it. I don't know what that timing actually turns out to be. There always seems to be a delay in the legal process. Gina Gonzalez. I almost said Gonzalez. Hi, Peter. How much will actually be in the affidavit? Thanks for being you. I think it's at least going to say, here is the evidence we have that he did it. Here is where we found him. Here is how we found him. Here is what he said when we arrested him. Those types of things usually are in probable cause affidavits. Now, it could still be redacted, but I think we're going to get a lot of information from this probable cause affidavit. Not everything. Not all the evidence they have against it. Shanta, Rob from Law and Lumber is giving Hobe updates on Twitter. Good signs, but still a fluid situation. Okay, good. Yeah, follow Rob as well from Law and Lumber. Follow Hogue Law for updates on what's happening here. Joe Figueroa, you and Emily are the only lawyers I trust. Thanks, Joe. Don Despid, if someone asks for a deal, if they plead guilty, and the prosecution says no, can they use the fact that they asked against them in front of a jury? It depends. Usually not. And usually the client doesn't go in there and say, I did it, I want a deal. If that does happen, then yes, those words can be used against them. If I, as the lawyer, say, is there a deal to be worked out here? I'm never going to admit or say that my client did it when trying to work out a deal. I'm going to say, listen, here are the bad parts about your case. Here's what makes this difficult for you to win this case. If you go and lose, it's going to be really bad for the community. It's going to look bad for you guys. Or you could take a plea deal. You can get a guaranteed conviction. They'll admit guilt. They'll apologize. They'll do this, that, and whatever. If we were to do something like that, even though he's pleading not guilty, and even though we think we can win the case, what kind of a deal could we get with that? That's kind of how you explain it to keep your leverage, and it doesn't get held against him because it's a confidential communication between lawyers at that point. Lynn's, new member. Lynn's getting in the comments, getting questions, joining the membership crew. That's what we like to see. Jilly Bear, I know this is pure speculation, but if his dad was driving the Elantra seen in Moscow area the night of the murders, could BK have asked the cops about any other arrest because he's worried about his dad? That's absolutely a plausible explanation. Do we know that? No. Has his dad been arrested? No. So that is just, pure speculation. But this is my point. There are lots of different ways you can look at every single one of these facts that we get. So until we know more, I don't think we have a lot of context at this point to put these pieces together. Vinny Brook, in your opinion, why would a defendant fight extradition? What could the strategy be? Delay. Some defendants just like delaying the process, number one. Number two, if they really are like Darrell Brooks, we were starting to talk about Darrell Brooks. Why does he say he's not going to go by Darrell? It's Darrell Brooks the second. Oh, is there another Darrell Brooks? Should it be his dad? Whatever. So there are identity issues that do happen, right? That's basically really it. Those are the only ones I've ever seen, I should say. Jolene Lyons, also a new member. A lot of new members tonight. That's cool. Jonathan, I'm sorry, I got to run over to another live stream. Thanks for reading my super chat. I'm going to watch your replay later for the information on the case. Jonathan, thanks for joining us, man. I'm glad you were here, even if it was for a limited time. If you come back later, hit us in the comments. Susan D, love your perspective. I think the extradition hearing or further court proceedings will be televised. Oh, do I think that? I assume better for a lawyer. If not, thank you. Again, better for a lawyer is kind of hard. Like, from my perspective, it wouldn't matter at all if every proceeding I was in was televised. But for my clients, it would. The privacy for the clients and for the public and what they can possibly do, say, know about these people, these parties, their families, that's why not to have cameras and microphones. I think it seems like they're going in the direction of allowing cameras and microphones in the courtroom. But that's just a guess, so we'll have to see. It's definitely better for the lawyers on the outside to talk about this case and to answer your questions if there are cameras and microphones in there. John O'Rourke back again. Thanks, Peter and Dude and Dudettes, for making 2022 so fun and kind with positive vibes and wise thoughts. Chat, let's make 2023 even better. Let's keep up the lawyer you know. Train expanding with positive interactions. Absolutely, John. Thank you so much. And if any of you are watching this, almost 4,000 people in the chat, hit that like button on the video and subscribe to our page if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 200K. We're on our way, a slow grind to 200K, but we're trying to get there. We're going to do another big giveaway, and we're going to do something fun. If you didn't see our 100K video, it was kind of fun. If you want to go check it out, and it's something that'll never happen again, at least on this channel. Brown-Eyed Girl 65 is a new member. Yes, Mehdi, he already asked the police about other arrests. Exactly. And I've seen people say, oh, this guarantees there is somebody else. But I've also heard people say, oh, he's toying with them. He's messing with them. He knows there's not anybody else, but he's a criminology expert. He's a serial killer expert. He knows how this stuff goes. He knows if he can plant seeds of doubt that there was somebody else, then that could help his case. So we just don't know what that means. And I think that we'll kind of continue to watch and see if, in fact, I heard somebody say maybe he was just the driver and there was somebody else that actually committed the crimes and he was the getaway car in the white Elantra. There's so much we don't know. And again, it would just be guessing at this point. Marty, I've missed this. Well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. Brian Hoffman, evidence collection. It was sloppy. Would you have a field day? If it was sloppy, then the answer is yes, especially when publicly everybody said there's all this DNA stacked on top of each other. And it was difficult to get to it. And then we also know that DNA is one of the ways they've connected him to the scene. And then they've already started potentially cleaning the house. There could be issues with evidence gathering and how they put all this together. Absolutely. Southern Mama, could this become a federal case? I'd be really surprised. I think it's possible that it could, especially I think he traveled across state lines from Washington, but I would be surprised if it does. Joy Puffle, what a great way to start 2023, catching a live finally with the lawyer you know and a Packer win. It wasn't just a win, it was a butt kicking. And the lawyer you know fantasy football league is in the championship week right here. There will be a prize for the winner. I will announce the winner later. It won't be till Monday night that we know for sure. Your boy lost last week in the semifinals. I did put a butt whooping today on the third place matchup, so I'm going to end up being in third place. Third place gets nothing. Second place gets nothing. First place will get a prize. So we'll talk about that on a future stream. Dina Doyle, I look forward to watching you and hearing your input. Thank you for your energy and intelligence. How important is it for them to find the murder weapon in order to prove guilt? Important. It would be very important. It would be very helpful. It would be huge if they could get prints off of it, if they could help to figure out exactly what happened, and if there really was only one murder weapon. By the way, that could be a way that they know that there was only one perpetrator, is if all the wounds look like they were made with the same weapon, right? That is one. There are things that they could have that give them the indication, and anybody that guesses otherwise, me included, would be speculating, thinking that there might have been two people there. But as important as the murder weapon would be, you can still, I've seen people get convicted without murder weapons before. So it's not the end all be all. Valerie said, Peter, can you please read my super chat? I think you overlooked it. John, if you could scroll back through, see if we can find it. I'm reading as many as I can. Sometimes I don't hit every single one, but I'm absolutely reading as many as I can. Angela Balderas, welcome to the membership crew. Brad Powers, go Knowles. 10-win season, bowl victory over a big school that we needed to get revenge on. Hopefully finishing in the top 10, which would be awesome. And we haven't done that in a long time. And we got a lot of guys coming back for hopefully a great season next year. P-Hop, 100,000 video was the best and so fun. How can you top that for 200,000? I'm sure the chat could come up with some very good suggestions. Well, they're going to have to. And you guys will definitely be involved. Tom N., love your channel. I think all sleuths need to come here for a better understanding of due process and why there are delays in the justice system. I hate delays. Part of my practice is pushing cases and keeping people's feet to the fire and making defense attorneys do their jobs and pushing it through the court system. But even in those situations, there are delays. It happens. And they're as frustrating as they are. They're frustrating to me too. I think you're right. We do need to understand that's a reality of our system at this point. Linz, I think this case will be for you what Depp v. Heard was for Emily. You've been doing such a great job keeping up with and sharing with us. Well, thank you. That would be crazy if it was. But in order for that to happen, you all have to subscribe and keep coming for the lives and keep giving me some questions and keep bringing the interesting content. Mimi, Angetta Levy from Law and Crime spoke with BK's public defender and posted some new info on Twitter. Okay, I haven't seen that yet. Will the Buffalo Bills win their first Super Bowl? They got a shot. They got a real shot. John O'Rourke, let's play golf for 200K. See, John is nice because there are some very embarrassing things or mean things that people could post, but he posts something he knows I love doing. Can we work golf into the 200K special somehow? Emily Flotilla is also a new member. Kim Ripley, Happy New Year, Peter and chat. Packers win to start the year. Thanks for always showing the role to people. To help people think and questions when the internet is crazy with info. You guys help us a lot too, though, right? Because you bring me some of the questions and you ask them legitimately and you say, like, what do we know about this? Or what does this tell us? Or is this something that's going to be used at trial? You guys ask the right questions. So that's what's cool is I get a lot of information from, again, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube from what information is out there. And it helps us give it context and understand it better. Sarah Bellum, Happy New Year, Peter and Lori, fam. Thank you for all you do. Best way to celebrate 2023. I couldn't agree more. Alyssa is also a new member. A ton of new members today. Tiffany, have you already explained what extradition is? Thank you for explaining the law. I never thought I would enjoy learning it so much. So what extradition is just another state having a right to a certain person to get arrested in that state for law enforcement, for the resources of that state to be used to arrest that person and then have them transferred over to the state that they need to be tried in where they committed their crime. You can fight extradition if you think there's an issue with identity or certain other issues that you can fight, or you can waive it and get extradited to that state. It's basically something that saves resources and saves time and saves money and makes the process easier when, as a community, right? Pennsylvania doesn't want a serial killer in their community any more than Idaho does. So Pennsylvania wants to work with Idaho to arrest this person and get him extradited to Idaho because Pennsylvania also doesn't want to spend their resources prosecuting crimes from other states because every court system is packed. Every public defender's office is underfunded. Every state attorney's office, judges everywhere are understaffed. And so they don't want to take any more cases than they have to, but they will help arrest this person and get him to the place that he rightfully needs to be. You versus Emily in court, who wins, Joe? Well, in a civil case, I'm gonna say me. In a criminal case, I think it'd be fun, right? And the reason I say that is Emily was a district attorney, so I think her whole career was on the criminal side. That would be fun. That would be really fun. I think it'd be a good battle. I always like my chances in court. Kim Ripley, 200K Super Bowl party. Oh, I don't think I'm going to get to 200K. That would be sweet though. 200K by Super Bowl, and we'll do something Super Bowl themed. But I don't think that's going to happen unless you guys share it with your friends, right? That's why you got to hit that like button. Ashley Harris, playing golf as Jack Sparrow, tying it all together, right? Please keep your collaboration with JB going. B. Galecki said, absolutely. I'm in the Tampa Bay area, as is JB. I was in studio for a video, which was really fun with him. That's absolutely going to continue. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. We're both young enough guys, right? We'll be around for a while. Gloria Smess, thank you for the super chat here. And a second one from Gloria. The double tap here. All right. Yeah, people asking for my dad's take. We're definitely going to get my dad's take on this case. Don't worry about that. But that's basically the update at this point, right? So make sure you keep coming back. We're going to post our lives. We share it on Instagram. We share it on Twitter. We share it on YouTube. Hit that reminder bell if you subscribed. If you're here for this case specifically, and this is how you got here, let me know again by putting Idaho 4 in the comments or in this live chat here. But I appreciate everybody joining me. We're kicking off this year strong. We're going to do as many videos as we can to keep the content coming to you. We're going to do some different stuff. We're going to do some fun stuff. We're going to do some podcasts. But we always want to know what content you want to hear. So you got to show up and you got to be vocal and tell me in the chat. Having this be interactive is so much more fun. Whenever I speak at conferences or in classes, I beg people to ask questions. The more interactive it is, it's always the best seminars or speeches or anything you can do, whether I'm talking to the third grade class at my daughter's school for, the career day, or whether I'm talking to a group of lawyers and judges. Golden Girl, you were the very first YouTuber I ever started following. That's awesome. Found you far before the JD trial. Love you and your comment. Tell your sweet wife thank you for supporting you and doing this YouTube thing. She does. And she told me somebody actually, she's like a fashionista. I talked about this on the last one. Somebody reached out and asked her for some link to her shoes. And she was like, feels like an influencer, people asking me where I got my shoes. So it's funny to have all this kind of popping off here. And it's going to be a fun year. I think it's going to be a really fun year. We're going to continue building, growing our community on Instagram and Twitter, as well as our YouTube community. We really want to hit 200K this year. That's going to be fun. That's a goal of ours. But I appreciate everybody that jumped in here. We only talk lawful law on this channel, as Ritz knows. Until next time, hit that like button on your way out. I appreciate everybody joining me. I'm out of here.